meeting order, February 7, 2018. If you would please stand for the invocation of pledge of allegiance to the flag. Thank you. Miss Vera Jones.
The mic's not on, but I can speak loud. I'm coming. Oh, second. Let's pray. Dear Father, we thank you for this opportunity to meet together and do the business of Effingham County citizens. We pray that you'll be with us tonight and bless us and lead us and guide us and help us make the best decisions possible. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't change everything a little bit here tonight. I want to introduce and welcome our new finance director, Mr. Thomas Kilmartin. Mr. Martin.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I just wanted to introduce myself to you if you haven't met me. Tom Kilmartin. Call me Tom. I've been here 2 days. It's been my pleasure to relocate to Effingham County, with my family, join my grandchildren, and to serve the people of the county to the best of my ability. I've established, I think, a good working relationship so far with the county administrator. We've given me some guidance, and we're going to take on some normal tasks of finance and provide you with the best information to make sound financial decisions and to protect the taxpayers of Effingham. So I appreciate this opportunity to serve you, and always my door will be open. I'll be available to you individually or collectively, but again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval, consideration of a resolution to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is the minutes. Consideration to approve the minutes of the January 16, 2018 regular commission meeting.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second. Second. All right. Unanimous. Thank you. Public comments. We'd like people to make public comments, but we want to stick to the agenda items only. Thank you. Correspondence. Documents from the meeting are located in the clerk's office and on the Board of Commissioners website. Next is the consent agenda. We have two things, and I will read them, and we will approve both of them at one time. Number one, consideration to approve to renew the MOU between Effingham County Board of Education and the Board of Commissioners for ambulance service. Number two, consideration to approve to renew a service order with stamps.com.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
We'll take a vote. I'm sorry. Go to first and second. First and second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Thank you, Vera.
And Mr. Vice Chair, if you can just note that Chairman Corbett is not present tonight. For the record, I'd like to note that Chairman Corbett is not present tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Chairman Corbett, I think his mother-in-law's in the hospital or something, and he could not attend the meeting tonight, so they had to settle for me. Thank you. Old business. Number one, only one. Discussion on honoring Noble B. Kessler and initiating a policy to honor deceased employees, and this was tabled 1/16/2018. Steve Davis.
Mr. Chairman and the board, with discussion with staff and several of the board members, and as well the clerk, we feel like we need to establish a committee to review this and come up with a sound policy that meets everyone's needs, and also reach out to the family of Mr. Kessler before we make any moves, much like we did with Ms. Joanna. So we would ask to let this table again and let it roll off, and we will bring it back after we establish the committee and come up with some guidelines on how we are to move forward.
Do you want to table it, or you want to give a time that we don't put it back on there, or we just table it, or do away with it until what?
If we could actually remove it and bring it back once we have it ready, that would be recommended.
All right,
And I like the fact that we're going to look at tabling that, so it is a sensitive issue, and I want to make sure that we do look at it and
Right,
do the right thing.
right, and set a policy that would be good for time to come, so.
Yeah.
all right. You have a motion to take it off the agenda?
I'll make a motion that we remove it from the agenda until staff has had a chance to pull together all the proper information and they can put it back on the agenda at that time.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, unanimous. All right, moving on to new business. Consideration to approve the FY 2017 Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG, application agreement between the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency, JEMA, HS, and Effingham County. And Mr. Clint Hodges will do.
Good evening, Clint Hodges, Fire Chief and EMA Director. This is the annual grant that JEMA gives to be used as against the salary of an EMA Director. This is the same grant that we've done several years in the past, and we'll do it again this year. The base award is $10,015, of which is matched 50-50 by the county, and this is provided through in-kind labor. So basically, our salary each year is used against it. So.
Well, it makes sense that that's what I've done in the past. I just want to ask you, normally finance director looks at the grants ahead of time, and I'm assuming maybe in this particular case that hasn't been able to happen. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, I would say.
Did you typically kind of verify it's the
Yes, ma'am.
changing and
Yes, ma'am, this is the exact same agreement that we've had in the past.
okay.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Got a second, any discussion? Not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Likewise,
Thank you.
it was unanimous. Thank you, Clint.
Thank you.
The one reason I actually even said that was because I want to make sure you heard that we'd like for them to look at that grant.
Second thing on new business, consideration to approve a non-residential gas extension contract with Atlanta Gas Light for the animal shelter. Beyond.
Good evening, Fiona Charlton, purchasing agent. In order to provide a more efficient and constant heat source for the animal shelter, Atlanta Gas Light can install a non-residential gas line extension to the facility. There is no upfront cost for the new gas line, and after a year, Atlanta Gas Light will determine if the estimated annual revenue of $411.80 has been met. If not, the county may be liable for up to the cost to serve. The contract anticipates the county using the service for 10 years. Atlanta Gas Light will own all the gas lines and the mains, and the county will provide the heaters. The county has the option to use any service provider. The county attorney has reviewed and approved the contract, therefore staff recommend alternative one. Any questions?
I would add also that we did temporary heating, heat lamps out there for the animals. It was one of the recommendations from the Department of Agriculture when they came down last month. So this is something that'll make it a permanent fixture for the animals and the heat. So.
Thank you, Fiona. Any more questions from Fiona? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative one, approve the contract.
Second.
Got a second. Any discussion? Not, we call for the vote. All approved, say aye. Aye. None opposed, unanimous vote. Thank you, Fiona.
Thank you.
Moving down to number 3. Consideration to approve agreement with USI Insurance Services.
Good evening. We have before you an agreement with USI Services Incorporated. As you remember, on the 1st of January, they became our agent of record. They've sent us a contract, a letter agreement that needs to be signed. It's basically outlining the scope of work that they've agreed to do for us. And it also talks about, it also limits the length of the contract and termination requirements and all. Everything that they've proposed that they're going to provide, the services they're going to provide for us were listed in the RFP that we put out, and is represented in their scope of work that's attached. The county attorney has reviewed the contract. He had some minor changes. The three things that he wanted to tweak a little bit was the length of the contract. What we elected to do this time was we have a one-year contract, but they can go for 2-year renewals at the end of each year. That's in the agreement now. We also have a 90-day notice to terminate by either party in writing, and also that should any legal action be necessary, that they would be taken care of by under the laws of Georgia.
So the first one is for a 1-year contract?
It's a 1-year contract, Mr. Lipper, with 2 1-year extensions.
Was everything good?
If services are satisfactory, they have been wonderful. It's a night and day.
Do we have the changes that the attorney recommended in what, or do we make a motion referencing the changes?
They're stricken.
They're in red.
You can read through it. Is that what?
Y'all understand what she's talking about?
Yes, today.
Do I'll entertain a motion to okay it. The 1 year with 2 1-year reviews. And the 90-day,
Written notice of termination, yes, sir.
okay, 90 days, okay. All right, y'all done that. 1 year with 2 1-year extensions with 90 days. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second. Have a second motion. Any discussion? Not, I'll ask for a vote on it. Aye. All right, no opposition? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Vicky. That'll be done. All right, the next one is number 4. Consideration to approve a resolution requesting the transfer of proceeds from the IDA revenue bonds. And Steve Davis has got this also.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, we did a refinancing of the revenue bonds to pay off our GFA loans this past year. Those funds had remained with the bank over at Ameris and weren't in our operating fund account, so we didn't have direct access to it. So we're looking at moving this over to our operating accounts so we can access it, so we can use it for the water improvements that the board has already approved through the SWAST and other methods.
We've already used $1.5 million of that $8 million, right?
That the 1.5 million that's referenced in there, Commissioner Looker, is that basically something we've already spent, and this is a reimbursement for that. So that'll be dollars, that cash that on hand that we'll have available to us to use.
Okay.
It's already been paid.
Okay, all right. So we still got the whole $8 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. All right. Do I have entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
I'll second. I have a second. Any more discussion? All right, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those likewise, unanimous vote. All right, number 5, consideration to approve a resolution to amend the 2018 budget for completion of the Atlas Reservoir. I believe we got you again, Mr. Steve.
Yes, sir. And, Mr. Chairman, just so everyone knows, this is a finance department, but seeing as Mr. Kilmartin just started yesterday, this was already in the works, and our interim had prepared these documents and everything. So But basically, this is a budget amendment. We've been working on the Atlas Reservoir project down there, and these funds, we're going to need, some of our water sampling has come back positive, and in a good nature, not positive for contaminants or anything like that. But basically, these funds are for testing, further surveying, and also for moving forward and trying to get the permitting for a reservoir out there through EPD. So this is a budget amendment that moves some of that money that we just moved from Ameris over to the Atlas Reservoir so we can continue to make the improvements out there. And we recommend alternative 1 to approve the budget amendment for moving $250,000 to the Atlas Reservoir.
All right. I entertain a motion for that.
I make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed likewise. Unanimous. All right, we move on to number 8, which is consideration to approve a final plat and a deed accepting infrastructure for Clover Point at Belmont Glen, Phase 2E. RC.
Mr. Chairman, Clover Point Development is requesting final plat approval of Phase 2E of the Clover Point, which is the last phase of the Clover Point section of Belmont Glen. It's 35 lots, water and sewers provided by Effingham County. Our public works and engineering staffs inspected the road, water, storm, and sewer drainage. Everything's been addressed as far as that punch list. The maintenance bond's been submitted, and the deed has been reviewed by the county attorney. Staff recommends approval.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? If not, we'll call for all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Unanimous. All right, we move on to number 7. Consideration to approve a final plat and a deed accepting infrastructure for Greenbrier subdivision Phase 1.
Mr. Bill Watson is requesting final plat approval of Phase 1 of Greenbrier subdivision located off of Highway 17. Phase 1 is going to be 11 lots. Water will be provided by a community well system that's to be dedicated to Effingham County. Sewer will be individual septic systems. All punch list items have been addressed. The maintenance bond has been submitted, and county attorneys reviewed the warranty. Staff recommends approval.
Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed likewise. Unanimous. We move on to number 8. Consideration to approve a revised final plat for Jackson Run subdivision, former Winter Park subdivision, Phase 1.
Mr. Chairman, Boomer Homes had purchased Phase 1 of Winter Forest subdivision. They own all the lots within the subdivision. They were requesting a revised plat approval to change the name to Jackson Run subdivision, and also they're changing the road name to the subdivision. Also, the lots, everything else remains the same. There has not been any individual lots sold yet, so there shouldn't be any issue as far as changing addresses as far as the street names are concerned. So staff recommends approval.
All right. I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed likewise. That's unanimous. Next is number 9. Consideration to approve a memorandum of understanding between the City of Springfield and Effingham County Board of Commissioners for a lift station to service the Clarence E. Morgan complex. And Steve,
Mr. Chairman and board members, I apologize, but we had a late revision request by the Springfield attorney on number 10 and 11, which these are a package. 9, 10, and 11 are packaged together. And upon council, we recommend that we table all three of these until the next agenda.
Which this will be worked out.
Yes, sir. It was minor revisions. There was some.
So it's enough time for next week.
Yes, sir. Actually, the MOU is correct, but rather than do it piecemeal, we can do them all together. It would probably be beneficial.
they won't hold that money a little longer.
That might be the case, or they need a little bit extra interest for another few weeks.
I would table them individually. What you say?
It doesn't matter.
Because they're all related, I'm okay with them.
They've always said it.
One item.
I'll make a motion to table item 9, item number 10, item number 11 until our next meeting.
Second.
A first and a second, any more discussion? All right, call for favor, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposed? It carries. All right, that was fast, that took care of those, and that's till the next meeting, right?
Yes. Next meeting.
And that'll be what?
The 20th, February 20th.
All right, thank you. All right, the next thing we got on our agenda is report from administrative staff and commissioners. Steve, you want to start it out?
Yes, sir. I thought that was pretty good news at table those last three to shorten up the meeting for you. I know that it makes our clerk happy on the first meeting of the month. But I have distributed an administrative report to you there with updates on several fronts. Obviously, we've got a lot of moving parts right now. An update on the Ash Road situation is that all the equipment has been ordered, as well as the material, and the material is actually on the yard now. A couple of the pieces are already here, but the rest of them will be here by Friday. We're going to begin training next week, and then we will go out and start on some low traffic roads. I also have attached the road list that we released. And you'll notice that there's some small roads there to begin with that first week, and that's just to continue the training and make sure the staff has a good process in place and everybody's working well together before we put it out on some of the higher, more priority projects. So, also dealing with Ash Roads, as we got our lab results back, I think I've communicated with all of you about that already. They did the 20 samples all over the county. All 20 samples came back good. There was no sample that came back with any contaminant over any EPA standard limits. So, very good news on that. Oh, and on the road repaving, it's going to start on February the 19th, which just happens to coincide with our new trash service. So, we're turning over a whole new leaf on February 19th in Effingham County.